Saw your car parked outside. Thought I'd come in and have lunch and check up with you on how you're getting along in your first day in patrol.
Hi, Sarge.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Gave a fellow citation this morning, though. The fact is, I was just checking up on myself to see if I handled the situation right.
Oh? What was the violation?
Speeding. I clocked him doing 37 miles an hour in a 25-mile zone, over near the playground.
Well, that sounds positive enough. What were you checking up on yourself about?
Well, frankly, I got a little excited at the time. You see, I had to chase him for a couple of blocks before he pulled over, and I thought I might have a really hot one on my hands.
Well, you never can tell. What did you do?
Well, when he finally did pull over, I pulled in behind him according to the department rules. Now, here's the thing. I felt like hopping right on that guy and giving him a piece of my mind. Well, you remember that kid that got it there just a few months ago. Well, I'm glad to say I remembered to cool down before I approached him. And while I was composing myself, I took the time to make a routine check of my hot sheet and jot down the make of the car and the license number. Well, this also gave me some time to think about the offense in terms of the department enforcement program. This was a serious offense, definitely calling for a citation. Since the traffic wasn't too heavy, I approached from the driver's side. I was calm enough to remember my training to approach any car with caution. And I avoided leaning on the car or sticking my head or arm inside. I took my time looking over the car, and there was no one else in it and nothing looked suspicious. But I'd like to have known what was going through that driver's mind right about then. Well, he looked like he might try to put up an argument.
When I finally realized that I was the one the officer was signaling to stop, I sure felt sick, I'll tell you. Why, he might have thought I was trying to get away. I was all set for him to give me a real bad time. You know, stick his face in mine, or get tough, or start that old sarcastic bit. And even though I knew I was in the wrong, I could feel my blood pressure going up just expecting him to give me the full treatment. He didn't even say a word for a while, just kept me in a sweat while he looked the car over and made some notes. But then he took me completely by surprise when he came over to the car. He was polite and almost friendly. Not buddy-buddy, but I could see he wasn't sore or about to bite my head off. He actually seemed sorry that I'd made this mistake when he told me that he'd clocked me at 37 in a 25-mile zone. But as he asked for my driver's license, I could tell by his manner that that boy couldn't be talked out of a ticket. He was polite, but he meant business.
Well, as it turned out, he was as meek as a lamb. Well, he started to hand me his identification folder, but I remembered to have him remove the license himself. Then I kept the license until the job was completed.
Now, this question may sound a little silly, but sometimes it's an item that's overlooked. Did you actually check the description of the driver on the license?
Yes, I did. And I checked on the expiration date, too. You know, a lot of people let their licenses run out. And it might never come to light except at a time like that. Well, just to be sure, I covered all the bases. I checked his registration card for ownership, too. And even though I felt sure he wasn't going to give me any trouble, I went to the rear of the car when I double-checked the plate number. Might as well establish safe habits. And that's where I stood to make out the citation. Coincidentally, I made sure the carbons were coming through nice and clear. Yeah, I did think I'd have a little trouble with him when it came to having him sign the citation. He didn't like that idea a bit, at least until I explained things to him.
I didn't like the idea of having to sign the ticket, but he explained that this was a requirement in this area to show that I had personally received the citation and that signing it was not an admission of guilt, only my promise to appear as directed. Well, that sounded okay, but I still didn't like it. But I signed fast enough when he told me that my refusal would automatically require him to take me directly to the station. It wasn't a threat, just an impersonal statement of what he was required to do under such circumstances. Now, here's what interests me. If he'd been tough or had started showing off a lot of authority, I'd have felt a lot of resentment about getting that ticket. I'd probably have left there hating all police officers in general. But I just couldn't feel mad at that guy. Instead, I felt mad at myself for having pulled such a dumb stunt. He left me convinced that he was as interested in my safety as in anyone's. To top it off, he even went out in the road and held traffic so that it would be easier for me to get going again. And it may be a small point, but somehow I appreciated it. He didn't add insult to injury by tagging along behind me once I got underway again. He apparently felt that I had learned my lesson. So, there you have the story of my run-in with the law.
So, there you have the story of my first encounter with a traffic violator while on patrol duty.
Well, it seems to me like you handled it just right in this particular situation. You obviously remembered a lot from the manual. First, you took all reasonable precautions for your safety and that of the violator. You made observations and double-checked items that could have disclosed a more serious offense. You determined the course of action to be taken and followed through with polite firmness. And you conducted yourself in such a way as to minimize the natural conflicts of the enforcement situation. I'd say that that kind of performance does a lot to develop individual compliance with the law. And that's one of the basic purposes of enforcement, right?
Right. Well, I gotta get going. See you, Sarge.
Okay. Friend of yours?
Yeah. Yeah, I really think he is. In spite of the fine I'm going to pay.